My brother got my fiancée pregnant right before our wedding. My family wants me to forgive them, but I told them to shove it and moved away. This is going to be a long story, and believe me, it's just as wild as it sounds. I'll do my best to keep it concise, but there's a lot to unpack here. I honestly don't care if anyone believes this. It's so unbelievably messed up that I just need to get it off my chest. And no, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything, though I will leave out identifying details. For those unfamiliar with my situation, I'm 32 years old, and up until a few months ago, I was engaged to my girlfriend of 5 years, Sarah. My younger brother, Mike, is 29. He's always been the golden child in our family. To truly understand the weight of this betrayal and why it hit me so hard, I need to give you some background on my family dynamic and how we got to this point. Growing up, Mike could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. I, on the other hand, was constantly criticized and punished for even minor mistakes. This wasn't just typical sibling rivalry or subtle favoritism, it was glaringly obvious and intense. Mike would break something and I'd be blamed. He'd start a fight and I'd be grounded. If we both got straight A's, he'd get a new video game console while I'd get a pat on the back and a reminder to keep it up. Our parents, Tom and Linda, always made excuses for Mike's behavior. Mike's younger, he needs more attention. You're the older one, you should know better. Or, Mike's just more sensitive, we have to be careful with him. This constant barrage of unfair standards and gaslighting made me feel worthless and unwanted in my own home. As we got older, the favoritism became even more pronounced. When I got into a good college with a partial scholarship, my parents barely acknowledged it. Yet, when Mike decided to attend community college, they threw him a huge party and bought him a car for his commute. Never mind that I'd been biking 5 miles each way to my part-time job for years. I moved out as soon as I could, eager to escape that toxic environment. I put myself through college by working 2 jobs and taking out loans. Meanwhile, Mike dropped out after 1 semester, claiming college wasn't for him. Our parents fully supported his decision, praising him for knowing himself and not conforming to societal expectations. They even bankrolled his string of failed business ventures over the next few years. No matter how much distance I tried to put between myself and my family, they always found a way to pull me back in. Holiday dinners were a nightmare of veiled insults and not-so-subtle comparisons. Oh, you're still in that entry-level position? Mike's thinking of starting another business? He's very entrepreneurial? Never mind that I was building a stable career while Mike was draining our parents' retirement savings. Despite everything, I tried to maintain a connection with Mike. He was still my brother, after all. However, it was always one-sided. I'd reach out, try to connect, but he'd either ignore me or turn the conversation into a competition he had to win. If I got a promotion, he'd suddenly have a big opportunity coming up. If I started dating someone, he'd inevitably be in a serious relationship. I met Sarah while trying to reconnect with Mike. She was a friend of one of his short-lived girlfriends, and we instantly hit it off. Sarah was everything I wanted in a partner: smart, funny, kind, and incredibly beautiful. We started dating, and for the first time in my life, I felt truly happy and valued. My parents, predictably, weren't thrilled. They made snide remarks about Sarah being out of my league and questioned what she saw in me. Mike, on the other hand, suddenly took a keen interest in my life. He was always asking about Sarah, wanting to know everything about her. At the time, I was just relieved he seemed to care about anything in my life. Looking back, I should have seen the red flags. Sarah and I moved in together after a year of dating, and it was amazing. We both had stable careers, loved to travel, and talked endlessly about our future. I started to believe that maybe, just maybe, I could have the life I'd always dreamed of: a good career, a loving partner, and eventually, children. I proposed to Sarah on our 4th anniversary. It was nothing elaborate, just a simple dinner, at home, and a heartfelt speech. I was overjoyed when she said yes. We planned for a long engagement, taking our time to plan the wedding. We weren't rushing. We had our whole lives ahead of us, or so I thought. When we told my family about our engagement, their reactions were diverse, to say the least. My mother forced a fake smile and said, "Oh, how nice," in a tone that implied it was anything but. My father grunted, muttered, "Good luck with that," and went back to watching TV. Mike, though, had the strangest reaction. He congratulated us, but there was something unsettling about his smile, almost predatory. I brushed it off at the time, attributing it to my own anxieties. The next year was a whirlwind of wedding planning and work stress. Sarah and I were both putting in long hours at our jobs to save for the wedding and a down payment on a house. We weren't seeing each other as much as we used to, but I figured it was just a phase every relationship goes through tough times, right? Looking back, I should have seen the signs. Sarah grew distant, always on her phone, smiling at texts from people she quickly dismissed as work friends. She started going out more with her friends, coming home late and smelling of wine and cologne. But I trusted her completely. I never once considered she might be cheating, let alone with my own brother. About 4 months ago, Sarah started acting really weird. She was moody, irritable, and always nauseous. I was actually excited by the possibility that she might be pregnant. We hadn't been trying, but we had discussed having children in the future. I started planning how I'd support her, thinking about nursery colors and baby names. Then, one night, she sat me down, tears in her eyes, and dropped the bomb. She was pregnant, but it wasn't mine. I was stunned. We hadn't been intimate in a while due to our hectic schedules, but I never expected her to cheat on me. When I asked who the father was, she broke down and mumbled, "It's Mike." My entire world came crashing down at that moment. Everything I thought I knew, everything I had built my life upon, crumbled. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. All I felt was an overwhelming sense of betrayal and loss. Sarah tried to explain, her words tumbling out quickly between sobs. Apparently, it started during our engagement party. Mike had approached her, telling her she was making a mistake marrying me. He played on her insecurities, saying she could do better and that he could give her everything I couldn't. It wasn't. A one-time thing. They'd been having an affair for months. I kicked Sarah out that night. I couldn't bear to look at her, to be in the same room with the woman who had deceived me so completely. She begged me to forgive her, saying it was a mistake and that she loved me. But all I could think about was how many times she had lied to my face, how she had been with my brother while wearing the ring I gave her. After Sarah left, I called. "Mike." I can't even remember what I said. It was all a blur of rage and pain. He initially tried to play it cool, claiming it was just a drunken mistake and meant nothing. But when I pressed him, he became defensive, saying, "Well, maybe if you'd been a better fiancé, she wouldn't have come to me." I saw red. I got in my car and sped to his apartment, determined to do something that would make him regret those words. I'm not sure what I was planning, but when I arrived, our parents were already there. Mike had apparently called them first, spinning a story about Sarah seducing him and how sorry he was. And you know what? They believed him. They always do. My mother immediately started lecturing me about forgiveness and family, while my father just stood there with his arms crossed, looking disappointed in me, but not in his beloved Mike. I tried to explain what had actually happened, but they wouldn't listen. They kept telling me I needed to forgive Mike and support Sarah through her pregnancy, because family comes first. I lost it. Years of pent-up resentment and anger just spilled out. I told them exactly how I felt about their twisted sense of loyalty, how they'd always favored Mike over me, and how they'd never once taken my side or stood up for me. I told Mike he was no longer my brother, that he was dead to me. I told my parents they could have the son they'd always wanted because they no longer had me. I stormed off, ignoring their cries and pleas. I drove for hours with no destination, just a desperate need to be away from everything and everyone. When I finally got home, I found dozens of missed calls and messages. Sarah begging for another chance, Mike alternating between apologies and accusations. Most, however, were from my parents, demanding I grow up and make amends. I ignored them all. I barely ate or slept. I called out of work, burning through all my vacation days. I couldn't face anyone, couldn't handle the thought of explaining what had happened. I just sat in my apartment, replaying every detail of my relationship with Sarah and every interaction with Mike, trying to figure out where I went wrong. It's been 3 months now. I've moved to a new apartment, changed my phone number, and started therapy to cope with all of this. But my family won't give up. Despite my efforts to cut off communication, they keep intruding on my life. They've started showing up at my office, trying to ambush me and push for a reconciliation. My mother confronts me in the parking lot, wailing about how I'm tearing the family apart. My father left harsh voicemails telling me to man up and forgive Mike. Mike himself has tried to approach me several times, but I've managed to avoid him so far. They've even sent flying monkeys, extended family members disguised as concerned relatives, to guilt-trip me into forgiving Mike. Aunts, uncles, and cousins I haven't spoken to in years are suddenly calling, telling me how important family is and how I should let bygones be bygones. It's as if they're living in an alternate reality where Mike and Sarah made a little mistake rather than a life-altering one. Yesterday, I got a message from Sarah. She's keeping the baby and plans to co-parent with Mike. And guess what? My parents are overjoyed to become grandparents, completely forgetting the circumstances and the harsh remarks they used to make when Sarah was with me. The letter was full of apologies and explanations, including how she and Mike found true love through this terrible situation. She even had the nerve to suggest she hoped we could all become friends eventually for the sake of the child. I'm at my wit's end. Part of me wants to sever ties completely and start over somewhere else. Maybe move to another state, change my identity, and build a new life where no one knows about this mess. But another part of me is so outraged that I want to stay and fight, to show them how incredibly messed up this situation is. I don't know what to do now. The betrayal has impacted every aspect of my life. I can't stand being alone with my thoughts. I haven't even considered dating again. The idea of trusting someone like that terrifies me. I've also lost friends over this. Those who believe I should take the high road and reunite with my family, as if I'm the bad guy for refusing to play happy families with the people who have hurt me the most. The thought of Sarah and Mike raising a child together, a child who should have been mine, is like a constant stab in my gut. I understand intellectually that the child is innocent in all of this. It's not the baby's fault its parents are. Lying, cheating scumbags. But I can't bring myself to feel anything good about its existence. My parents have even started discussing how I should be involved in the child's life, how I'll become an uncle. The concept makes me feel physically ill. How can I look at this child and not see the ultimate symbol of my brother's betrayal? So, Reddit, I guess my question is, am I the jerk for refusing to forgive my brother and ex-fiancée? Am I wrong to want to cut off ties with my family over this? Any advice on how to proceed would be greatly appreciated, as I honestly feel like I'm drowning in a sea of betrayal and gaslighting. I apologize for the lengthy post. If you made it this far, thank you. Writing all of this down has been cathartic in a way. I'm not sure what I hope to gain from sharing this. Validation, guidance, or just the chance to scream into the void and have someone, anyone, hear me. Edit. Holy cow, this exploded overnight. Thank you all for your help and advice. I overwhelmed by the response, and it will take me some time to go through all the comments. However, I wanted to answer a few common questions. Yes, I have consulted with a lawyer about getting a restraining order against my family. It's currently in progress. I don't intend to have any contact with the baby. It's not the child's fault, but I can't get involved without losing my sanity. For those who asked about my job, I've already spoken with HR about the situation. They are aware and supportive. They've reinforced security at the front desk and offered me the option to work from home more frequently. I'm grateful for their understanding. Many of you asked if I'd considered moving to another city or state. It's definitely something I'm thinking about. My company has offices in several other cities, so a transfer might be possible. I'm weighing the pros and cons. To those suggesting a DNA test, Sarah admitted the affair, and the timeline aligns. I see no reason to doubt the child is Mike's. Even if it was mine, I doubt I could ever look at that child without thinking about this. I've been overwhelmed by the number of people who have had similar experiences. It's upsetting to realize how widespread this type of betrayal is, but it's also strangely comforting to know that I'm not alone. Thank you all for being vulnerable and sharing. To the individual who asked if I'd considered taking legal action against Mike for alienation of affection, I looked into it, but it's not recognized in my state. Even if it were, I don't think I have the energy for a legal battle right now. Several people have pointed out that Mike's behavior seems narcissistic. I've started reading about narcissistic personality disorder, and much of it rings true. It helps me understand, but doesn't excuse, some of his actions, those who inquired about Sarah's family. They are as shocked and appalled as one could expect. They've cut off contact with her and have reached out to offer me their support. It's a small comfort, but I appreciate it. To the individual who asked if I'd considered having my own children someday, honestly, this entire experience has made me question whether I want to have a family at all. But I'm trying not to make any major decisions while I process everything. I'll keep you updated if anything major happens. But for now, my focus is on healing and moving forward. Thank you again, Reddit. You have helped more than you realize. Your encouragement and suggestions have given me a lot to think about, and they've truly been a lifeline during this tough time. I may not be able to answer every comment, but please know that I read them all, and they are making me feel less alone in this. Update. Hello, Reddit. It's been about 2 weeks since my last post, and it's been an absolute roller coaster. First and foremost, thank you all for your immense support and suggestions. I never expected my post to go so viral, and going through all your responses has been both upsetting and oddly reassuring. It's disturbing how common this type of deception is. The last few weeks have been tough, to say the least. Remember how I mentioned I was working on getting a restraining order? Well, that turned into a huge ordeal. My lawyer filed the paperwork and we had a hearing scheduled. I assumed it would be straightforward, given the evidence and the ongoing harassment. But I was wrong. My parents showed up at court with their own lawyer, some fancy guy in an expensive suit who probably charges more per hour than I make, in a week. They tried to paint me as the crazy one, claiming I was tearing the family apart over a simple misunderstanding, as if Mike had just stumbled and fallen into my fiancée. Fortunately, the judge didn't buy it. She issued the restraining order against Mike and my parents, but only after my mother dissolved into tears in court and my father glared at me as if I had committed murder. The look on Mike's face, however, I swear if looks could kill, I'd be dead. As we were leaving the courthouse, Mike tried to approach me. My lawyer stepped in between us, reminding him of the newly issued restraining order. Mike just scoffed and said this wasn't over, and I couldn't hide behind a piece of paper forever. I'd be lying if I said his words didn't shake me, but at least I have some legal protection. The job situation has been another nightmare. Remember when I said my family had been showing up at my workplace? This came to a head last week. I was in a meeting with a client when my assistant alerted me that my mother was in the lobby, causing a scene. Apparently, she had brought a photo album and was trying to show my coworkers baby pictures of Mike and me while lamenting about how close her boys used to be. I excused myself from the meeting and went down to the lobby, where I found my mother surrounded by a group of uncomfortable-looking co-workers. She was in the middle of relating a story about how Mike and I used to bathe together as toddlers when she noticed me. She tried to rush towards me, talking about a baby shower, but I cut her off. I told her she had to leave immediately, or I would call the police and have her removed for trespassing and breaking the restraining order. Her expression was as if I had slapped her, but after everything they had put me through, I couldn't bring myself to care. Security escorted her out, and I had to spend the next hour doing damage control with my employer and co-workers. Fortunately, most of them understood, but I could tell some were wondering what kind of drama I was bringing into the office. But it was the fight with Mike that really threw everything off track. Last Saturday, I was at the gym trying to pound out some of my frustration on the punching bag. I was so engrossed in my workout that I didn't notice someone approaching me until I heard his voice. I spun around, and there was Mike smirking at me as if he hadn't just broken the restraining order. He started speaking loudly enough for anyone nearby to hear. I ordered him to leave before I called the cops, but he just laughed and said he'd tell them how I had threatened him and Sarah. That's when I lost it. I swung at him, my fist landing squarely on his jaw. He stumbled backward before lunging at me. We ended up on the floor, trading blows like kids again. Except this time, there were no parents to separate us. No one telling me to be the bigger person and let Mike win. I got in a few good hits before the gym staff pulled us apart. Mike's nose was bleeding, and I could feel my own eye swelling shut. We were both yelling, trying to break free and get back at each other. The gym manager threatened to call the police, which finally snapped me out of it. I grabbed my belongings and fled. I was driving home, still shaking from adrenaline, when I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Sarah was screaming at me about how I had broken Mike's nose and that he might need surgery. I couldn't help but laugh. The absurdity of her being upset with me after what they'd done was just too much. I sarcastically apologized if I had upset her little boyfriend whom she had been sleeping with behind my back for several months. She started sobbing, complaining about how stressed she was, how the baby could feel her pain, and how I could be so selfish. I hung up and blocked her number. The fallout from the brawl was severe. The news spread like wildfire throughout our social circle. My phone was flooded with texts from friends and family members, some supporting me, others calling me out for assaulting my poor defenseless brother. Sarah's parents contacted me again, expressing their support for me and their disappointment in their daughter. It was a small consolation, but at this point, I'll take what I can get. The restraining order doesn't seem adequate anymore. Mike has shown his willingness to violate it, and I'm genuinely concerned about what he'll do next. The legal fallout has been a nightmare. My lawyer called me the day after the gym incident. Mike apparently filed assault charges against me. I recounted what had happened, how Mike had violated the restraining order and provoked me. My lawyer groaned and said we'd fight it, but it might be a tough battle considering I threw the first punch. We are in the process of bringing our own charges against Mike for breaking the restraining order. My lawyer is confident that this will help our case, but nothing is guaranteed. I've had to give police statements, show them injuries on my face and knuckles, and justify defending myself against my own brother, which is just humiliating. Mike and I have both been banned from the gym for life. I can't blame them, but it's unfortunate, as that gym was one of the few places where I felt like I could healthily release some frustration. My cousin Amy, whom I've always been close to, called me the other day. She's taken a lot of heat from her side of the family for supporting me, but she's standing firm. She told me about what's been going on behind the scenes. Apparently, my parents have been telling everyone that I'm having a mental breakdown. They claim that Sarah and Mike's relationship began after Sarah and I split up, and that I am simply envious and unable to let go. According to Amy, most of the family is skeptical, but some are buying it. It's infuriating to know they're spreading false information about me while I'm trying to recover. Things at work have been, to say the least, difficult. After the incident with my mother in the lobby and the fight with Mike, which went viral on local social media, I can sense my coworkers are on edge around me. My manager called me into his office earlier this week. He started by saying he valued me as an employee, and understood I was going through a difficult period. But then he dropped the bombshell. He believes it would be best if I took a leave of absence until things calmed down. He suggested we call it a personal sabbatical, paid, of course. I wanted to fight it, to tell him that work is the only thing keeping me sane right now, but I knew the decision had already been made. So I agreed, thanked him for his understanding, and started to pack up my office. As I was leaving, I overheard two of my coworkers discussing how my brother got my fiancée pregnant. I slammed my office door louder than necessary as I exited, taking some small satisfaction in watching them jump. I'd be lying if I said none of this was affecting me. I've started taking long drives at night to get out of my apartment. Sometimes I find myself parked outside my old place, the one I lived in with Sarah, wondering how my life got so messed up. In the midst of this chaos, I received support from an unexpected source. Sarah's younger sister, Emma. Emma contacted me on social media, apologizing for her sister's conduct and offering her support. At first, I was skeptical. What if this was a trick? But after speaking with her, I realized she is equally disgusted by Sarah's behavior as I am. She's been telling me about what's going on in Sarah and Mike's lives. They appear to have moved in together, living as if they hadn't just destroyed numerous lives to be together. Emma claims Sarah has been attempting to portray herself as the victim, crying to anyone who would listen about how she never intended to hurt anyone, and how she and Mike are soulmates who found each other against all odds. It makes me sick to my stomach, but I appreciate Emma keeping me in the loop. After all, information is power, even if it is knowledge I'd prefer not to have. The social media environment has been a nightmare. I've always been a pretty private person, but this event has thrown me into the unwanted spotlight. Someone, probably one of Mike's friends, posted about our gym brawl on a local Facebook page. The post didn't mention our names, but it described the incident in enough detail for anyone who knows us to figure it out. The comment section became a battleground. Some individuals defended me, claiming Mike got what he deserved. Others described me as unstable and said I needed to be locked up. I made the mistake of looking over some of the comments one night after having too many beers. Huge mistake. I ended up throwing my phone across the room so hard that the screen cracked. Since then, I've deleted most of my social media profiles. I can't deal with the constant notifications and messages from people I haven't spoken to in years who suddenly want to know all the juicy details about my personal life. With everything that has happened, I've realized that I cannot stay in this city any longer. There are too many memories and chances to run into Sarah, Mike, or my parents. I've started looking for internal transfers, and there's a promising opportunity in our Seattle office. It's not ideal. I've never been a fan of constant rain. But at this point, I'd move to the moon to avoid all this turmoil. I haven't made any final decisions yet, but the idea of a fresh start is becoming increasingly appealing. New city, new apartment, new life, where no one recognizes me as the guy whose brother cheated on his fiancée. My folks have been unusually silent since the restraining order was granted. I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. For them, to figure out a new way to force their way back into my life. Sarah has been spreading the word about her pregnancy far and wide. Emma tells me she's been posting continuous updates on social media, ultrasound photos, belly shots, and so on, with captions about how blessed she and Mike are, and how thrilled they are to start their family. Each new piece of information feels like a fresh wound, triggering the pain, just as I thought I was beginning to recover. So that is where things stand right now. 2 weeks ago, I thought my life couldn't possibly get any worse, yet it has. I'm still angry and hurt, but also weary. I am tired of justifying myself. So, Reddit? I suppose this is less of an update and more of, I don't know, a cry into the void. I'm not sure what I'm asking for right now. Advice, pity, or a time machine that allows me to never introduce Sarah to my brother. Whatever happens next, I will try to keep you all informed. Your encouragement has meant more to me than you can realize. It's nice to be reminded that there are still good people in the world, even when it feels like everything is full of betrayal and deceit. Final update. Hello, Reddit. It's been a week since my last update, and I'm here with what I expect to be my final post on this whole disaster. First and foremost, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for your support and guidance throughout this journey. Your comments have been a lifeline in the worst times of my life. So, where to start? A lot has happened in just 7 days, and I'm still trying to process everything. I guess I'll start with the major news. I'm relocating. Yes, I took the leap and accepted a transfer to our Seattle office. It wasn't an easy decision, but after everything that had happened, I felt I needed a completely fresh start. The decision came after an especially difficult day last week. I had just returned from another meeting with my lawyer regarding Mike's assault allegations when I saw a note in my mailbox. It was from Sarah. I almost threw it out before opening it, but curiosity got the best of me. Inside, there was an ultrasound image and a handwritten letter stating how pleased she and Mike were about their baby. She went on to say that she hoped I could find it in my heart to be pleased for them, and that the baby would be delighted to have its uncle in its life. I saw red. Before I realized it, I had grabbed my phone, unblocked Sarah, and dialed her number. She picked up on the second ring, and I just let loose. I told her exactly how I felt about her, Mike, and their beautiful little family. I told her she was insane if she believed I'd ever want anything to do with that kid, and that she, Mike, and the baby could all go to hell. It wasn't my finest moment, but I felt like I finally screamed everything I'd been holding back. That's when I knew I couldn't stay in this city anymore. That same night, I called my supervisor and informed him that I wanted to transfer to Seattle. He was relieved, to be honest. I think he was concerned about how all this drama would affect the company. He promised to expedite the paperwork, and by the next morning it was official. I had 2 weeks to pack my belongings and move across the country. My family and social circle were quick to learn about my move. My folks, unsurprisingly, were outraged. They showed up at my place unexpectedly again, breaking the restraining order, trying to talk me out of it. My mother was crying, accusing me of abandoning the family, and my father was furious, yelling at me for being selfish and immature. I didn't engage. I simply called the police and had them removed for breaking the restraining order. As they were escorted out, my mother yelled at me that I would regret it, that family was everything, and that I was throwing it all away. I immediately closed the door and went back to packing. Mike reacted differently. He didn't try to contact me directly, most likely due to the ongoing legal issues, but he did write a lengthy message on social media about how some people can't handle seeing others happy, and how he and Sarah were rising above the hate to focus on their new family. It was clearly intended for me, as he tried to portray himself as the victim. I'll admit it stung to see how many people liked and commented in his favor, but I reminded myself that their opinion is meaningless because they don't know the truth. Sarah's response was the most surprising. After our phone call, she contacted her sister Emma, who had been keeping me updated on Sarah and Mike's situation, as you may recall. Apparently, my statements had a greater impact than I had imagined. Emma informed me that Sarah had broken down, stating that she realized what she and Mike had done was terrible and was scared of the future. My cousin Amy, bless her, offered to help me pack. She even told me more about what's going on with the family. Amy told me that my aunt, my mother's sister, had a heated argument with my mother, accusing her of always favoring Mike and pushing me away. My aunt complained that my parents were reaping the consequences of their years of favoritism. I can't say I'm not relieved to hear that someone is finally calling them out for their behavior. My lawyer assures me that my move will have no effect on the legal case, which is currently pending. We're still pursuing charges against Mike for breaching the restraining order and defending against the assault accusations he brought against me. My lawyer seems confident that the judge will see through Mike's arguments, especially considering his history of breaching the restraining order. The fact that I'm moving across the country should also demonstrate that I'm not a threat to Mike, which may help get his charges dropped. I don't know if I'll post any further updates after this. Part of starting over is putting the past behind, and as helpful as this community has been, I believe it is time for me to move on from revisiting this narrative. I need to focus on building my new life rather than obsessing on the past. So, I believe this is my final update. Wish me luck, Reddit. I've got a whole new life ahead of me in Seattle, and I intend to make the most of it. Thank you so much for sticking with me till the end. If you enjoyed our videos, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Have a good day. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you all.